Welcome to Talk Across America. I'm Doug Miles, and we're here in beautiful Sarasota, Florida. And it is a great pleasure to welcome back to the show. Man has written another fascinating book about things that happened during World War II, maybe little-known stories about it. And his latest is called The Ghost Ships of Archangel, the Arctic Voyage that defied the Nazis. And he also wrote a great book called The Matthews Men. And we talked to William Geroux before about that. He joined us by telephone today. And William, good to talk with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I was looking through the archives. I guess it was 3 years ago already. I didn't think it was that long ago. We chatted with you about the Matthews Men, but good to have you back. Congratulations on the success of that book.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
This is kind of, I guess, in a way, a companion piece to that. And I didn't know anything about this either. I'm glad I read your book because I did not know about the story about these are four particular ships that were bringing supplies right during World War II. Allied ships, and they were trying to bring it across the Arctic, and of course they ran into some trouble. I'll let you take it from there, but that's the basis of the story, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it is sort of it was a story I encountered while researching my last book, and it didn't really fit in that book, and I kind of set it aside and thought I might pick it up later, and I have. The story is basically it's a nonfiction account of a large Allied convoy that sets out in June 1942 from Iceland to try to cross the Arctic, to try to get through the ice and the cold and German attacks to deliver supplies to the Soviet Union, which at the time was our somewhat tenuous ally in the war against Adolf Hitler.
You almost tend to forget. No, they were never friends of ours, I guess, but we were on the same side back then, pretty much.
We were, and it was we weren't really friends, or at least our government wasn't friends with their government.
Right.
But we were sort of we found ourselves both opposed to Nazi Germany, which was we perceived as a much greater threat than the Soviet Union, and they perceived as a much greater threat than us.
Yeah, common interests more than friendship.
Yeah.
Well, when you obviously did the other book, which was about World War II, and this one, now you give some great details. You kind of focus on, I guess, 3 different or 4 different captains or people on these boats. How did you find out about them?
There's been a fair amount written mainly in Britain and in the Soviet or Russia about this convoy, and there's been some stuff written about these 4 particular ships, but it never really nothing really to describe their voyage in great detail. And it was this voyage, what these 4 ships did in breaking off of this disintegrating convoy that I found to be the most fascinating aspect of the whole story. And I tried to use this, make that the centerpiece of a story that the book, talks about the convoy itself, and on a broader sense what was happening in the war and what was happening around the world. But I just liked this. I just loved this story about these 4 ships going up into the polar ice field. It was just so fascinating to me that I tried to get deeper into it than has gone before.
And the detail you give of what they went through, you tend again to not realize how little technology there was back then as far as getting messages across to these ships. It's amazing that they could even do something like that, even back in World War II. It was really not great communications, right? No.
It was once you were off, you were you were kind of gone. They did get enough communication. The convoy originally was headed for the Soviet port of Murmansk, but in mid-voyage, the Germans bombed Murmansk into just practically destroyed the place. So in the mid-voyage, the convoy was rerouted to Archangel, another port in North Russia.
And the conditions they lived under, obviously, the weather is brutal. Not great food, whatever food they could get. I mean, it's amazing that they could even accomplish this.
It is. The weather in the winter, the Arctic voyage was a nightmare. You know, the storms would come barreling out of the polar regions, hurricane force winds, 30, 40 below zero, huge steep waves. In the summer, when this convoy sailed, the Arctic is a much calmer place. It's like a duck pond many days with bright sunshine. But that's really worse because for a convoy, because in the summer, because of the tilt of the Earth's axis, the sun doesn't set in the Arctic. So a convoy sailing across the Arctic is exposed to attack by the Germans, and particularly the bombers, pretty much 24 hours around the clock. And that was paradoxically, it was more dangerous in the milder summer weather than in the brutal winter weather.
Yeah, and you talk about in the book, they painted the ships, or tried to paint them all white, right? So they'd blend in with the ice to try and camouflage at least a little bit, right? Because of that daylight all the time.
Yes, once they got into the ice field, you know, surrounded by ice, they were concerned that the Germans, particularly the planes, would come over and spot them. And these were great big ships, you know, gray, dark ships, and they would stand out very easily. So the men on these ships found a large cache of white paint and literally painted the ships white. And they also went into they got the ship's stewards to bring out tablecloths and bed sheets that were white, and spread them over the decks and tied them around the masts to further camouflage the ships.
Yeah, it's amazing. Again, what they went through, and if they didn't accomplish this, obviously this would have hampered the war effort, right? I mean, what would have happened if they couldn't have accomplished this, in your opinion?
Well, the convoy was really, only 11 out of the 35 ships actually made it to Russia. So in that sense, they didn't, they accomplished only, maybe a third of what they set out to do. But on a different level, politically, it was very important to America and Britain's alliance with Russia that we keep sending these convoys. At least President Franklin Roosevelt thought it was vital. So, in that sense, just the fact that we sent it was an olive branch to Joseph Stalin, the dictator of the Soviet Union, to try to show, see, we are prepared to help you. We're going to make sacrifices to help you. So in that sense, it was more successful because at least we made the effort. But for the men on the ships, it was a tough situation.
Yeah. Yeah, the more you read about World War II, obviously your books, the Matthews Men and this one, the Ghost Ships of Archangel, and just reading about World War II, it's almost amazing that we won. I mean, it came close a few times that one thing go wrong, or one more thing go wrong, we wouldn't have won that war. So these little things, these little stories like this really added up to provide the war effort that America needed, right?
Yes, I think so. And as the book points out, at this stage of the war, the Soviet Red Army was doing pretty much all the actual fighting against the Germans. So we were at that point mainly supplying them so that they could fight, and they weren't entirely pleased that we weren't doing more. Stalin wanted us to launch an amphibious invasion of France in 1942. He basically wanted us to launch the D-Day invasion in 42 instead of 44 when we actually did it.
Right.
But Roosevelt and Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Britain, wouldn't do it. They thought their troops just weren't ready yet. They told him, in the meantime, all we can really do for you, Stalin, is send these convoys, send you supplies.
Yeah, amazing story. The Ghost Ships of Archangel, the Arctic Voyage that Defied the Nazis is the name of the book, and we've been talking with William Geroux today. And again, William, give out whatever website you have. People can get more information about the book.
Sure. I do have a website, and it's www.williamgeroux, that's WILLIAMGEROUX.com.
Great. William, pleasure again talking to you, and hopefully we won't wait 3 years before we chat with you again. I guess you have another project going, right? We'll talk to you shortly.
Yeah, it's in its infancy, but yeah, I'll have another one out at some point.
Great. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us today on Talk Across America. Please visit our website at dougmilesmedia.com for more great interviews and content. And if you're interested in any of the books we talk about on the program, please click the Amazon link on our website. It helps support the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again real soon here from beautiful Sarasota, Florida.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.